Good Friday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Tim Pandages here with your Atlantic tropical update, and we're talking about Sam. That is now a hurricane, Category 1, the 7th of the year, forecast to become a major, which would be the 4th of the year. Today is September 24th, 2021. Sam, the S-named storm, number 18, puts us at 18 named storms, 7 of which have been hurricanes. 3 so far have been majors. Now, where do we shape up compared to the past seasons? Well, last year, we were already into the Greek alphabet at this point in time with storm number 23. Remember, we finished with 30. 8 of those were hurricanes. 2 were major at this point in time. 2019, we had 12, and 2017 coming in behind that at 13 with 8 hurricanes, 5 majors at that point. So how did things compare with the forecasts that were put out throughout the season? This is the most recent update from NOAA. 15 to 21 named storms, so we're right in the middle of that. Hurricanes 7 to 10, we're at 7. And majors 3 to 5, and we're right in the middle of that one as well. Now, a normal season is 14, 7, and 3. Colorado State put out an update, too, that calls for 18 named storms, 8 hurricanes, 4 majors. We're pretty much right in line with that right now and above an average season based on the 30-year average. So our naming list, we've got 3 left. Teresa, Victor, and Wanda. Now, last year we cleared through this. We were already into the Greek alphabet, but this year we're not using the Greek alphabet. In fact, it's not going to be used ever again. We have a supplemental list of names, 21 here, and looking likely with over 2 months left in the season that will probably tap into these names. The first couple are Adria and Brayland, and then Caridad. So we'll see how that shapes on up as we wrap up these last 3 names that possibly could be coming in not so distant future. We've got 3 other waves out there aside from Sam right now. You can see the placement on where Sam is located. It's still well away from any land. And the latest updates on the modeling does show or signal the possibility that it may not impact land at all, which would be a great thing. Here's how it looks on satellite imagery. We're looking at infrared now. While we look at this, it's the temperature of the cloud tops. When we start to see some of the white shades, the black shading too popping on up, cold cloud tops, strong convection indicates a stronger storm. Now, in the last couple of images here, as we look at this from a 12-hour loop, you can see it kind of goes through a phase. It has a flare-up of convection, and then it dies down a bit. In the last few images here, you see some pops of white right around the center. That's indicating possibly that we're about to enter a stage of intensification, and it is explicitly forecast by the Hurricane Center to undergo rapid intensification, which would be an increase in sustained winds of around 30 to 35 miles an hour over a 24-hour period. And it's expected to become a major Category 4 with peak winds over 130 miles an hour. Right now, it's safely away from any land over 1,100 miles away from the leeward and windward islands. And right now, it looks like it's going to make a trajectory off to the northwest and possibly just miss those islands, which is what we're hoping for here. And hopefully that trend continues. Although I will say, put a little asterisk next to it, is that that's a week out. This is going to be a slow-moving storm, and a lot can change in the overall steering pattern and the setup of the environment and the steering overall in that time. So we'll have to watch it carefully here. You can't just turn a blind eye on this one. Visible satellite looking much better here, much more organized. Definitely has the presentation of a hurricane. You can see the feeder bands extending out off towards the east, pulling in moisture. The ventilation, the outflow aloft with the cirrus pushing on out in all directions here. It's looking like it's ventilating properly. Now, the only hindrance, which could be a possibility of putting a stunt on its strengthening for at least a little while, would be some dry air. And it's surrounded by it. Off to the west, you can see the rust color here on water vapor imagery. Shows the dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And if this was to be ingested into the overall circulation of Sam, it would choke it off a little bit. Dry air and tropical systems don't mix too well. They need a moist environment, moist systems, and dry air around there. But right now, at least, it looks to be kind of holding itself together and fending off any of the dry air. So where's the storm going? Big question you're asking yourself if you're watching this video. Here's the latest cone from the National Hurricane Center. I mentioned it's going to be a slow mover. It's moving right now at 14, but expected to slow down anywhere from 5 to 8 miles an hour over the coming days. So not covering a lot of territory throughout the weekend, but it will be strengthening over that time, and it's moving over very warm ocean waters that extend down to a depth. So even though it's slow movement, and the upwelling shouldn't really stop it from strengthening and lessening any of the fuel that's available for it, up to a Cat 4 by Monday morning. 130-mile-an-hour winds. And even at the tail end of the 5-day cone, you've got a wide end there because the consensus is all over the place. The confidence is not as high as it would be a little bit closer in time. A lot of variables can change, but even that cone at that 5-day still keeps it out of the northern Leeward Islands. So I want to show you the differences here in the modeling. Now, this is the spaghetti plot, and each line you see here is a different computer model, and a lot of these also are the GFS ensemble. That's the GFS model run 30 different times. There are 30 members, and the initialization is tweaked a little bit. We shift a scenario or a variable a little bit to see if there's a different outcome. So this was the run as we went into yesterday morning. A very large dispersion across a large area. Not much confidence here. And a lot of these members were over land areas impacting the northern Leeward Islands. Look at the shift, though, that's happened as we headed into this morning. A little bit more of a consolidation, kind of tightening up on those GFS ensemble members and all the other computer models. There's still some outliers to the south that still do bring a threat into the Leeward Islands, but a lot more shifting a little bit farther to the north and having a northwesterly track staying to the northeast of the islands. We'll see if this is a trend or if we're going to see a shift back and forth and a wobble over the coming days. So let's compare the two global models, the GFS and the European. So the European is going to be in the red. The yellow is the GFS. These lines on this map are isobars. And when they're closed off, that's a center of circulation, that's a storm system. And when those isobars are tightly packed together, you have a tight pressure gradient, meaning the winds are stronger, it's a stronger storm. You have a larger drop in pressure over a shorter distance. So here we are at 10 o'clock this morning. We've got a closed low. Obviously, we have a hurricane out there in the Atlantic right now. But notice as we go out in time how these isobars really get condensed and the storm is strengthening rapidly as we just get into tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. We'll likely have a Category 2, if not greater storm by then, maybe even a major Category 3 at that point in time. And we keep those isobars pretty much stacked on top of each other as we head out into Tuesday. So here we are 4 days out almost. And we haven't traveled very far, hasn't covered a large distance, still about 400, 500 miles to the east of the northern Leeward Islands. Fast forward further out in time, we're in a Wednesday afternoon, still now just to the northeast of the islands there. European tracks it a little farther west. GFS starts to take that turn to the northwest a little bit earlier and even farther out here. Both of those models show it missing the islands. Still, some of the outermost winds and rain bands may get up to places like Barbuda, but if this trend holds, we'll see it move a little bit farther to the northeast, and that would be a good thing. And then we're out to Friday, so a week from now, and here we are north of Puerto Rico, well north, safely north, but we've got a major storm system sitting out here in the Atlantic, taking that northerly turn. And I want you to pay attention to what's going on here over the eastern seaboard. A trough digging on in, an upper level low is going to help to steer and push that storm north and fend it off from the eastern seaboard as it looks right now. It's all about the timing. If this is a slower moving storm than forecast, it may miss this, or if this trough doesn't develop or develops farther to the west, we could see this track farther west and closer to the east coast. So it's all about the timing. I want to show you a different perspective here. In the upper level winds, 34,000 feet. As we play things out, I'm going to go right on through time through next week, even next weekend, and the storm system by this point in time will be right around in here, somewhere south of Bermuda. And there's that big digging upper level trough. An upper level low here that will help to pull and steer Sam to the north and safely away from any land. However, we're going to have to watch it for Bermuda. Obviously, that's going to be an issue there, but the United States may get spared again here as this storm moves forward in time. But a lot of time between now and then, we'll have to watch it really closely. All right, sea surface temperatures. We've talked about this all season. There's no lack of warm water in the Atlantic Basin. In the storm path here, 84, 85, 86 degree water. You need 80 degrees or warmer for that late heat release for the storm to use that energy and disperse it as wind energy across the area there. And that warm ocean water extends down through a depth. This is ocean heat content, where you're seeing that teal color and some yellows thrown in there too. It's projected path pretty much. It's going to get into deeper, warmer water as we go forward, which is why that strengthening is forecast to get up to a Category 4. Now, as we're heading into October, different months have different areas that are favored climatologically. So October, we start to see more and more pronounced cold fronts come on in through the United States. So that draws down the cooler, drier air and puts a boundary in place. And a lot of times that helps to deflect storms offshore and keep them away from any land masses. But of course, we'll have to watch The Western Caribbean, that's a hot spot in October, and the Southwest Atlantic, too, for any close calls. But things are looking a little better as we get into October. There's always those outliers that can come in and impact land, but the overall trend is to keep things offshore. So here are my final thoughts. Sam remains a nervous watch for the Lesser Antilles by the middle of next week. Sam will be around for a long time. It's a very slow-moving system, long-duration track, and the steering is harder to nail down that far out in advance. There's a lot of factors, a lot of moving parts that can alter and shift. And then one little minor tweak in the 5, 6, 7 day out time frame could alter the whole scenario. Conditions are ripe, though, to help Sam become a major hurricane. The warm ocean waters, the relatively moist environment in its immediate area, and a lack of any wind shear to cause it to tilt over, so it's a vertically stacked system. All right, that's the latest on Sam. Next time we talk, it'll probably be either a Cat 2 or a Cat 3 storm at that point, and that time, next time we talk will be tomorrow. David Paul will be up later on this evening, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Enjoy your Friday.